All right. Hello, everyone. You guys can sit down in the audience. I'll probably more talk to you guys if that is fine. If you're watching this afterwards, welcome to the second SOFA screenings workshop of the semester. This one is being recorded, so show your friends. It'll go up on our YouTube and also probably link to it in an email. You'll be all receiving an email from me and the other FAVASA officers on Monday, so definitely check that out because that has everything that you need to do in text form in order to submit, as well as certain policies. It'll have links to our documentation. It'll have QC signups, which I'll get into, and just other information. So please read the whole thing. It'll be in Comic Sans font, which I know is fun for everybody. And so just be on the lookout for that, especially because SofaTube and the other submission sites open on Monday. So with that being said, welcome. My name is Maxwell Schaefer. I'm the technical director. Joining me on Zoom is Gia, and then our hopefully new technical director, Astrid, is in the audience. So we're getting her up to speed. But any of us you can reach out to at emails that'll be at the end, or personally, if you happen to know us or you have a friend who knows us, feel free. We want to get information out. We like emails. We like when you email us either personally or through the FAVASA emails. Ideally through the FAVASA emails, just so you get 4 pairs of eyes instead of just the one. But we'll try to get to any Discord questions. We don't check the Discord as often. If there's big, huge discussion and argument blowing up, usually we'll step in. But also, and same thing with like Instagram and other social medias. Typically, we're not going to respond as quickly or if we see it at all. So please email first and then try to find us if not. Cool. So what workshop 2 is today, and how are you going to prepare your film for submission through tier 1 and tier 2, as well as calendar and important dates. If you're new to SOFA, tier 1 and tier 2 are the 2 options we give you guys. Tier 1 is a little bit easier for you guys, a little bit harder for FAVASA. So we limit you in certain numbers of amounts of options, especially creatively, when it comes to surround sound, expanded color gamuts, high dynamic range, stuff like that. Whereas tier 2, you guys are taking on the brunt of the work to master it. And so we allow you guys to do surround sound, scope, widescreen, extreme widescreen, any sort of that like stuff that takes advantage of the technology that we have access to in Magic and SOFA. And so if it really depends on what level you are and how much technology did you use, as well as if you like how immersed you want to be in it. Typically we recommend first years, all workshop films, doc field, stuff like that. The earlier animation courses take a tier 1 approach. So that way you can just worry about the creative stuff. You can worry about making movies and production and editing and stuff like that. We'll take care of the final conform and stuff like that. Whereas for tier 2, if you've taken advantage of the color suite, which we're in right now, the sound mix suite next door, or you want to tell your film in extreme in a ultra wide format, scope format, flat format, you're allowed to do that, and we encourage you to take advantage. So all of this and more can be found at these 2 websites. It's the same website, 2 different tabs. Documentation is going to be huge. Absolutely read all of it for what you're doing. Are you editing in Adobe? Are you what are you doing? How are you going to export? Where are the presets? Where are the bumpers that you're going to need? What should you include at the end of your film? Stuff like that. That is all stuff that we check for after the submission date, and your film will be flagged if it doesn't include things or if it's exported incorrectly. I'll get into how to export a little bit later, but all of that information can be found in more detail than this meeting is going to be at that website, at those websites. All right. So screenings process, we fit into the 3rd bullet on here. You should ideally be out of pre-production for sure. Maybe you're shooting this weekend, or you're still, this is more for production students. For animators, I know you guys go for the next couple weeks still. But really we should be in post-production. I know, make sure that your picture and your sound, your timelines are set up correctly. All that stuff is set up properly for how you want it to screen. Um, if you go to our documentation, you need to choose. Ideally, you've probably chosen if you're going to do tier 1 or tier 2, unless this is your first time hearing about it. But figure out what aspect ratio you want, and if you want to do a widescreen film, like a 2:3:9 aspect ratio in a tier 1 package, you're going to have to letterbox. Just because we don't offer it, it's not part of our stuff. So thinking about those things, and then making sure your picture and sound are formatted. And then we really take over, Vivasa really takes over in the QC and submission stage. QC is quality check or quality control. And so you can come have a session with us. We'll watch your film with you in the audience. You can have your own private screening, and we'll let you know if there are any technical issues, or if you notice something off that we wouldn't see, because you've seen your films 100 times. That's going to be the first time we see it. If you notice something off, it's too loud, it's too low. It's within spec for sound, I will say, but it's too loud or it's too soft, just how you're hearing it. The color looks weird, it looks too flat, there's a weird jitter, your captions are off, whatever it is, we'll help you resubmit. The QC is going to be the last full week of classes, and I have the dates on the last slide that you can sign up for, and we'll get into that. And then submissions, after submissions, you're free to you're done. That'll be the end of the semester classes. Go to any of your finals and absolutely come to screenings. In those couple days is when Favasa really takes over, and we make sure your film plays on the projector, and that's when we're checking for your bumpers and captions and sound and stuff like that. So utilize the handouts that we give you. There will be an email next week that is how to prepare for screenings, and I believe that screenings checklist is also on the website. Submission and QC policies are, I don't remember if our website has our up-to-date calendar, but they will be sent out in that email, especially for the QCs. And so again, just take advantage of what you have, take advantage of your resources, which are all in this presentation. Um, these are requirements for all films, and so regardless of tier 1 or tier 2, they must include closed captions. And by closed captions, I actually mean open captions. There's a typo on the slide. Um, Open captions are also known as burned in captions. Essentially, there's no sort of like enabling or disabling of captions. It is burned in. It is pixels on your screen. Um, I don't care how you get me captions, as long as they're burned in. There's paid services you can do that'll provide you however much per minute of film. I know Dave Silbersky recommends a certain one that I forget, but they all must include captions. So however that is, Premiere Pro, our presets are, I believe, still built. I'll check them this weekend. I believe still built to default enable burn in captions, so there's no issues there. The Premiere Pro has probably the most intuitive captioning, more so than I would say DaVinci. But whatever you use, as long as they're there, we're gonna make sure they look good. You must include the sofa bumper at the head of the film. If your film is in black and white, this is new this year, there are black and white sofa bumpers. Regardless of what you choose, all of them can be found at SofaTube. If you go SofaTube, screening sign up, you can grab the bumper that's going to be in your resolution at your frame rate for tier 1 or tier 2 or black and white, those. And then you must also, this is the biggest one we get, adhere to audio loudness specifications, which I'll get into. There's lots of easy ways to screw up audio, and there's a lot of really awesome ways that you can check for if you've screwed up your audio. And so I'll get into like what you can use to check that we're hitting our levels as indicated in basic sound. First, we'll go through the tier 1 workflow. Like I said, this is a video-based workflow rather than a cinema file-based workflow or a DCP. DCP is tier 2. So when you're preparing for screenings, you've already shot, you're in post-production right now. You've watched it, everything is as good as it's gonna get. You've made all your color adjustments, you've made all of your sound adjustments. That's when you're gonna go to the export tab in whatever software. and hit video export, and you're going to select all the settings as detailed on our website, all the settings that you need to in order to get it into a few sort of file types. It must be H.264 compression. I believe there's a slide on this later, so I think I'm going to skip over all the details. We give you the option of drop frame time code, which is 23976 or 2997, as well as 24 frames a second and 30 frames a second. So regardless of what you shot at, within those standards, and regardless of what your resolution is, or sorry, we restrict you on resolution to either 1280 by 720 or 1920 by 1080. But either one of those are totally fine, as well as those frame rates. We limit you in terms of bit depth and color space. It's got to be a Rec 709 export with stereo sound. If you're editing in Premiere and I believe Media Encoder, there are presets on the machines. All you have to do is type sofa, a whole list of them will come up. Go _T1 underscore, sorry, underscore, I believe it says 24 frames a second next, and then 1080p or 720p. Select whichever one fits your file correctly, and you can just hit export. Watch it on your own computer before sending it to us, and then you can submit it. After you've seen it, because there's stuff goes wrong in exports all the time. We don't want the first time we notice an export error to be the Tuesday after screenings, because that we're just like, either Favasa is not going to catch it because at the end of the day there's only 4 or 5 of us, and we have about 100, almost 100 films to look through. Or if we do catch it and it still can play, we're just going to play it. We don't have time to fix every single video issue, especially if it's on the export side. So watch it on your own computer. And then you can submit film to the screenings portal where there's another QC check. This one's an automatic one. I'll show an image of it in a second. Then you can actually, once it's submitted through SofaTube, you've passed the Favasa Auto QC. You can sign up with me for a actual QC time. I'll load your film into the projector. We'll play it in the theater, and if everything looks right, you'll be good to go. If something doesn't feel right, because again, you've been editing on your laptop, and a theater is just a different environment for both like human visual system adaptation and sound. If it doesn't sound right, it doesn't look right, you can go re-export, or we might be able to adjust it in the theater. Depends on the issue. But assuming you're all good, assuming you've QC'd on your computer, it looks good, it looks the same. You're all set. Come to your screening, and now you come to the screenings time. And now that is a typo because I forgot to edit part of the slides. This will be December 9th. I believe. Let's check. Yes, it will be December 9th from 7 to 10 p.m. So December 9th from 7 to 10 p.m. So that way, if anybody's watching this later and they paused it on the other one, maybe they catch it afterwards. Yeah. So what that's going to entail is you come to the sofa cage, and if you get there at 7, there will probably be a line already. People tend to get there early and line up so they get a good spot. We operate first come, first serve. And so typically people get there early, line up, bring your submission receipt. SofaTube will automatically email you your submission receipt. Come to the table, there will be all 5 or 4 of us will be there. Look and say, "Hi, I'm Max Schaefer. Here's my submission receipt." And one of the Favasa officers will look at it, and then they'll ask you what day and what time do you want to screen. We start on December 12th, which is the Thursday, and go 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. We're not sure how long screenings is going to go. Just like every year, we've never known exactly how long it's going to go. We're shooting for 3 or 4 days, just like always. Please don't book a flight or any sort of like not valid excuse. A flight home does not count as a valid excuse. It never has in my time at least. What is a valid excuse is either like any sort of emergencies, of course, like if there's any emergencies on the day of, just communicate with us, communicate with your professor. It'll get back to us. And you, depending on, as long as it's a like you're not faking an emergency, which I don't think anybody would do. I'm kind of waffling right now. But as long as you have a valid excuse, doctor note, whatever it is, uh, you'll be fine for screenings. We'll figure it out on those days. If you have a final, come to the table and say, hey, like I have a final on Thursday morning or Friday evening. Could I be scheduled at a different time? And we'll stick you either on the weekend, or like if you have a Thursday morning final, we'll stick you Thursday afternoon or something like that. That being said, if you email us that you have a final ahead of time, we'll leave a spot and just wait for you to come through the line. We're not, you still need to come through the line. We can't just give you a time, but we'll just leave some gaps in the schedule is kind of what I'm trying to say. And so that being said, if you don't email us and you come to the table, you say, hey, I have a final on Thursday, we'll massage the schedule and we'll make sure that you get a time. You just might be going at like 6 p.m. on a Saturday when not a lot of people want to be there. Not a lot of people are going to be there, whatever the case may be. Like we're going to put you in a time. It might be 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Like it's going to be a time that you might not like. So that's why, get to that line early if you need to, and get to the line early if you really want a certain spot as well. Yeah. So tier 1 requirements, like I said, I was going to get into 1920 by 1080, or not listed here, but it is there. We also do 1280 by 720, which I don't think we ever have gotten, but most people just do 16 by 9. Frame rate, like I said, 24 or 30, and then their drop frame equivalents. Sound must be stereo. You must give me 2 tracks of audio, no matter what. Your bit rate, 320. Don't give me 3, don't give me 1, don't give me 0. We can't accept mono audio. It breaks our system. If you do have mono audio, if that's all you recorded, you can duplicate your track and give us dual mono. That's totally fine because it'll route the same, it'll sound the same. But in terms of the file itself, it needs to be stereo. We've also gotten submissions that are intentionally completely silent. For creative choice typically. We also can't accept that. It also needs to be dual mono, but just don't include any sort of any sound. So that's totally fine. It can be a completely blank track, but we have to receive an audio track, otherwise it throws off our workflows, and we can't get it into the projector sometimes. Compression H.264, which is an MP4 container. Don't do a ProRes inside of an MP4 or like H.264 inside of an MOV. We need it to be that. If you select the preset, it will do all these things automatically. But if you're in DaVinci, we don't have presets for you guys. So you got to make sure that these are all checked. Again, these are all listed on the favasa.cad.rat.edu/documentation. 8-bit color depth, 420 chroma subsampling, 2.2 gamma in Rec 709 space with a white point of D65 and the peak luminance of 100 nits. Again, watch your film before you export. On all Sofa and Magic Lab machines, there will be presets. I haven't checked downstairs. I know Magic recently updated their Premiere Pro to 2025. So there's a ticket in. If you're submitting like tomorrow, they probably won't be there. But by the time that most people are submitting, the presets should be there. You can also, if you are on a machine, if you're on your laptop submitting, or if you're on a machine in Magic or Sofa that doesn't have a preset, you can go to favasa.cad.rat.edu and there's a zip file with presets. Just navigate to the last export page, hit the 3 dots, say import presets from that zip file. Yeah, should be a Premiere and Media Encoder if you're typically animators. Sometimes they do Media Encoder, so should be on both. I typically check both, and I will be this coming week. So cool. Audio loudness. This is, again, like I said before, the thing that gets failed the most. We require a -3 max peak We always hold a competition to see who gets the higher than that and who can get the highest. We've had values of +5. That means that 5 full decibels are clipping and all 8 of them are too loud. They're too loud for the theater. They'll damage the speakers. And so we don't care. We'll play your film anyway. We're just gonna do a like 40 decibel reduction. We're going to we have an it automatically does it for us. We have a system for it that when we are doing our automatic QCs, if we receive a file that's too loud and it's gonna damage our equipment, it'll automatically lower it, and your sound is not going to and sorry, your sound is not going to be correct anymore from how you listen to it. And at the beginning of your film, we automatically place a bumper that says audio did not meet loudness specifications. And so everybody will know. Everybody who's been through screenings has seen their fair share of these. This is more for the first years who haven't been to screenings yet. Don't be the people that have an audio bumper. Uh, it is very disheartening. Everybody in the audience kind of like groans a little bit. So don't be that guy. -27 LUFS, that's kind of your average. Think of it as your average loudness for every moment in your film. That should be -27 ±2, or below -25. Same thing. You can check that really easily in Premiere Pro, and I believe in DaVinci, I think it's just called something different. You can go to loudness meter or loudness radar and drop it onto your audio track. What that does is it'll open up a little pop-up, and all you have to do is put your playhead at the beginning of the film and hit play. Watch it. If it's a 5-minute film, watch all 5 minutes. It'll analyze your audio and it'll tell you, I think it'll tell you like 4 things, like your total range, but the 2 that you have to pay attention to are what's your highest peak and what is your integrated loudness target, which will be either LKFS or LUFS, being loudness units full scale. Documentation is again available. And then for Pro Tools, Isotope Insight is the one that we're told. If you're a sound mixer, you probably know more than me about how you're doing that. But definitely make sure you guys, whatever Pro Tools export you're doing, you're hitting those specifications. Again, QC your film on your computer prior to coming to the table for sure. And I would say right after you export. I know it'll be literally you've probably just watched it in the timeline before you hit export, and you've watched it 100 times before that as well. Watch it 101 times just in case. Like, weird stuff goes on when you export sometimes, especially if it's not in Premiere Pro with on the lab machines with the presets, stuff like that. And make sure that your submission follows the requirements. Use the meter, read the pre-flight check once you QC, all that. Speaking of the pre-flight check, this is I guess I could take newish away. It's been there for a long time. It's been here for about 2 years now. And so when you submit, you essentially, what you do is go to SofaTube. If you Google SofaTube, it should pop right up. Type in your credentials just like normal. Everybody in Sofa should have an account already. Please email us if you don't, but you should be able to watch everything. You're gonna go to screening signups, and like new sign up, or like the language is pretty simple. You're gonna type in your name, your class, your film name, a whole bunch of stuff. The next page is gonna be where you upload your film. There's 2 sets of documentation, one for Macs and one for Windows. And so make sure you're clicked on the right documentation. Essentially, what you're gonna do is follow the instructions to connect to the Magic or CAD servers. You're gonna drag your film onto those CAD servers, and then you're gonna wait like 2 minutes while it processes that action. Once that's processed, it'll appear and you can select it, hit yes, this is my film, this is my file. And it'll pop up with a pre-flight check. You should look at that pre-flight check for sure and make sure you see 8 things. 7 check marks, and the thing in the brackets at the bottom, which should say passed. So loudness norm, true peak, overall audio, and stereo audio will all be checked. Codec is H.264, your resolution is right, and your frame rate is right, and it says passed. There are many times, and I believe this pre-flight check is also included on your submission receipt. I could be wrong. It it has some years, it's changed over the time. Um, but please, if it says failed, it failed. We're gonna notice that on the Tuesday after screenings, signups are over. And we're gonna take whatever measures we need to either make it work, or if we can't get it to we can't make it work, your film won't screen. Don't let your film not screen. QC on your computer, QC with the audio, this auto QC, make sure that looks right. And again, you can QC with me in the theater via a signups page that I'll talk about in a sec. There's lots of opportunities to catch mistakes. Please take advantage of them, especially if this is a new process. So, this is the last thing. Make sure just this is kind of exactly what I was just talking about. Don't forget the sofa bumper, which can be downloaded from the SofaTube website. It'll actually be on the screening signups page. You go to screening sign up. Once you've uploaded your file, eventually it'll say submit. You'll receive an email. That's your ticket for signing up. I should have mentioned this earlier, but prior to your export, please name your films correctly. It is very difficult to track your film, and it is like we miss a lot of stuff when you don't name your films correctly. Your film should be last name underscore film name underscore month, day, year of export. So I screened a fiction last semester. Schaefer underscore You're No Better was the title underscore, I think it was like April 30th at in 2024.mp4. And then you must sign up in person for the majority of students. That being said, if you are graduating this semester in December, email us the time you want to screen once you've signed up, and we can schedule you. Graduating students in the spring and the fall don't have to sign up, but like work in progress capstones still have to wait in the line, stuff like that. Yeah, the other thing is, I don't know, I'm sure it's getting covered in class. Sorry, to my MPS friends are kind of making fun of that. I guess making fun of me. I don't know. This is all being recorded, by the way, Theo. Anyway, sorry. I don't know if it's being covered in class, but at the end of your film, you should copyright Schaefer, or for me, Schaefer 2024, as well as you need to put the sofa bumper, or there's a thing you have to say, which is like uh all of it's on the website. You can ask your professors. It's also in every film on SofaTube, if you ever need to reference it. But it's like all this was made with RIT gear, essentially. I forget the exact verbiage, but essentially that. Getting into tier 2 workflow. So tier 2 is DCP, which is digital cinema package. That's how actual movies play. So like all the movies you've ever seen in a movie theater are DCPs. But we offer both workflows because we know that students are at different levels in their SOFA curriculum. So tier 2, when you're preparing for screenings, if you're doing a tier 2, you probably should be in post-production and exiting out of that within the next couple of weeks. And the main difference is you're creating digital source masters. Those are in two varieties. You're making a picture DSM and an audio DSM. The audio file is not one file, but one file per track. And so if you have a surround sound mix 7.1, you're going to have one picture file, 8 audio files, because 7.1 is 8 tracks for those of you who haven't been in sound mix. You're gonna there's there in our documentation and in our presets, there's ways that you can export. For tier 2, there's two main ways. There's DNxHR encoding. That's going to be a lot faster, a little less high quality. I believe it's 10-bit, but it's still 10-bit is still a standard in the industry. So you're totally fine. It is very high quality, but it does use JPEG 2000 compression. The other way that we allow you to do pictures are TIFF files. TIFFs are 16-bit 16-bit uncompressed image. It's an image sequence essentially. Technically all DCPs are image sequences, but that's fine. TIFFs are completely uncompressed, but they take forever to export. So if it's the day of screenings and you're trying to do a DCP, I would recommend not doing a TIFF sequence. I've never noticed a difference between either workflow. Although sometimes people want to just fully make sure that no code values are getting changed, that everything's getting locked into place. The DNxHR encoding is that'll give you one file. It'll be a .mov file. If you're doing the tier 2 with just DNxHR and no surround sound, stuff like that, when you go into the preset, you just make sure to check on the audio. Technically for tier 2, if you're not taking advantage of surround sound, you don't have to export both audio files. And again, reach out to me if there's questions. But when you export your DNxHR, just on the last page, when you select the preset, make sure to then scroll down and toggle on the audio, and make sure, assuming you're mixing in stereo, of course. So that'll give you your one DSM. You can just bring that one file into DCP-O-Matic. For any sort of surround sound or the TIFF sequences, you need all the audio files and then whatever video, whatever DNxHR or TIFF. Bring all that to say, that was a lot, I know. Please reach out again if you have any questions. Bring all that into DCP-O-Matic, and make sure what you're going to click on each of the files and adjust the settings. Make sure that gamma 2.6 or like whatever you graded in is selected. Make sure your color space is right. Again, a color is hard, contrast is hard, so let us know if you have any questions, but it again is in all the documentation. And for the audio, you're going to click on every single audio track and select where it has to go. So make sure you label each audio track like left, right, center, LFE, back right, back left, but all the fun sound speakers that we have. We do have 58 speakers in Waybrand, so take advantage of it if you have access to surround sound. What that'll do is once you've configured all that, you also can add a captioning track. If you've forgotten or you didn't burn it in, then you can add an SRT file to DCP-O-Matic and burn it in within DCP-O-Matic. Once all that's all configured, all set, you're going to go to jobs, hit make DCP, and let it cook. It could take 10 minutes. It could take an hour. It could take 2-3 hours. It depends. I've seen feature length 90-minute films take half an hour, and I've seen 20-minute capstones take like 90 minutes to 3 hours. It depends on like it depends on everything. It depends on how high quality is your video footage, how much stuff are you doing, how long is it, all sorts of factors go into play, but know that it is going to take a longer time than just exporting. And that's compounded for you because you'd already exported your video and your audio from Premiere Pro or DaVinci or Pro Tools or whatever. So just know that there's a lot of exporting, but it means that you can do scope. You can take advantage of the whole screen in Wegmans. You can do scope, you can do flat, you can do P3, Rec 2020 color spaces. Theoretically, you could do HDR, but typically it's not done. We don't have a great workflow for it. But we offer a lot more options. The one thing that we don't offer is different frame rates. Everything needs to be 24. That's a standard. That's a cinema standard. And so just making sure that you do those things, especially that thing, that 24 is important because DCP-O-Matic sometimes doesn't like when you give it anything other than 24. And that does include 23976. That is a different type of time code. Yes, it's 24 frames per second, but it might do some weird stuff. So don't do that. Once you submit, if you've made your DCP, it actually automatically gets submitted. You're not off the hook quite yet, but it does automatically get put on our servers. A DCP is not a file you can click on, but it's actually a folder, and it'll be named a certain way. And so typically, if you follow the convention, It'll auto name it for you, but if you've given it the right information, it'll be like Schaefer underscore you're no better. And then it'll auto fill in the dates. It'll auto fill in scope or flat. It'll auto fill like, is it a short film? Is it a feature length? Is it a commercial? Like whatever, stuff like that. Um, that, like I said, automatically gets submitted, but please save it to your own hard drive. Sometimes that automatic upload gets grumpy, gets weird. And so we when we're checking it, make sure you have an extra one. If you've submitted a DCP and we don't notice until, and you did it prior to, everything that you've done was following the deadlines, and we just find an error, we're okay with you coming in. I've had it happen where everything seems right on your end, but it just is, it's something wrong with our system. We can have you come in on Tuesday, but we can't let you export a new DCP. So make sure you have it on your drive just in case there's an issue on our end. That you can just come in, you can plug your hard drive right into the projector and we'll upload it right from there. From there, you can tier 2 QC with me in the theater because you can't play. I'm gonna start it and then I'm gonna break I'm gonna lie first and then I'll tell the truth. You can't play a DCP on your laptop. You can only play a DCP in Wegmans Theater or the Color Suite. I have QC dates, so sign up. We'll ingest your film into the projector and get it where we'll make sure it looks good. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, especially with multiple exports, and so making sure your audio sounds right, making sure your color looks correct, and especially your contrast. That'll be, if you QC with me, I'll tell you like, hey, like look out for these things, and one of them is going to be like make sure the blacks are black and make sure the whites are where you remember, and the midtones are equally the same. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the lie. The lie was you can't play it on your laptop. You can't like click and open it on your laptop, but there is a special software you can get that can play DCPs. You're gonna go online, type DCP-O-Matic, and download DCP-O-Matic Player. DCP-O-Matic is a collection of softwares. We use DCP-O-Matic 2 to create the DCPs. DCP-O-Matic Player is where you can QC kind of on your laptop, similar to how I said you QC the tier 1 file. Speaking of tier 1 files, if you're doing a tier 2 workflow, you're also doing a tier 1 workflow. You need to go back to your Premiere or DaVinci and export a trim file, which is H.264. We're not going to play that one. That's purely for signups, signup submissions, and for SofaTube archiving. But we need you to do it so that way we have your submission sign up. And so once you're completely done, you've QC'd, it looks good. DCP is automatically uploaded. Export MP4 following the tier 1 presets. Submit that version to SofaTube. Receive your email and then come stand on the line. I know that it's a little complicated, but we need both files in order to play. We're not going to play your tier 1. We're only gonna there's a flag. Make sure in SofaTube when you're building your submission, you just check tier 2 and we'll automatically know that, oh, don't even worry about this one. We've got it on a different server. It might even already be in the projector by that point. All right. These are requirements. We offer 2K and 4K flat and scope, with 185 and 239 being flat and scope respectively. We can take stereo as well as both surround sound, common surround sounds. At uncompressed 24-bit 48 kilohertz. That comes in a DCP, plus you need to export your video trim. Your DCP is going to be 12-bit. Display is going to be 2.6 contrast, and make sure your export settings are correct or your preset is selected, because your color space is XYZ. It's not or sRGB or Rec 709 or P3. It'll be, you'll play it in a P3. It'll look like it's in P3 or Rec 2020 on the screen, but in terms of the file format, it's XYZ. If you have questions, again, explain it. It does make sense, I promise. It just is color science is hard. And then 48 nits is your peak luminance. That's DCI standard. Like I said, yeah, picture DSM, all this goes, yeah. Uh, DSM for picture, DSM for sound, packed into DCP-O-Matic, which is a bunch of files. It's actually an image sequence, not technically a video file. And so yeah, that's basically it. I kind of wow, I can't believe I covered this. So if you were confused at when I was yapping about this, it's on this slide. Uh, oh, one thing I didn't say is make sure your audio and your picture are synchronized. Make sure they're the exact same length, and I mean exact down to the frame, same length. Otherwise, things will get weird when you export, and that's something to watch out for when you QC with me. That's something that can go wrong, especially if you do like 23976 is your frame rate. And so make sure you don't do that. Yeah, TIFF, DNxHR, Sofa Magic Machines. Yeah, everything again is on the website. Forgot how good my presentation is. It's got everything that I want, and I always think that it doesn't too early. Yeah, yeah. There should be templates already built into DCP-O-Matic on the Magic and Sofa computers. But if not, you can, or if you're creating a DCP on your laptop, first question is why would you do that? That's going to take forever. And my second thing is that's totally fine. I don't really care. But if you want the presets so you don't have to manually type in your resolutions and stuff like that, those can be found on the Philosophy website. Yeah, like I said, DC. Wow, I'm doing really good. Tier 2 trim file. DCP doesn't work on SofaTube. Yeah, and it can't be played on a laptop without DCP-O-Matic player. Um, use your digital source masters to create the tier 1. Just change it to a tier 1 export. Watch the tier 1 export because that again is the one that's going to live on SofaTube. That's going to be the one that future yous are going to watch. Future students are going to watch. So yeah, just make sure it looks correct and looks as good as it can look on a laptop. Especially since most if you're doing tier 2, you probably graded in the theater or mix and sound. Yeah, yeah, QC. Yeah. Okay. So I'll bring up the new stuff on this slide. Sign up for QC. That'll be in a spreadsheet with all the dates. I have the dates listed and the times on the end of this at the end of the Zoom meeting. Amnesty deadline is another date I'll go over. Essentially, it guarantees full technical support if we find anything wrong. That's going to be the last Wednesday of classes at I believe 10 p.m. So if you submit, regardless, tier 1, tier 2, if you submit before that deadline, I go in on Wednesday and I check all the films and I see like, oh, is there any issues here? And I'll email you if there are. After and that's just because you submitted early, you've lessened our workload a little bit. And so we'll help you out in that way. You still have to sign up on Monday, but like we'll help you over the next couple days with submissions if we find anything wrong prior to that Wednesday deadline. Um, yeah. The other and so for QC sessions, you need to submit to SofaTube by 11:59 the night before your QC session. That's because I have to go in early on the mornings and get them into the projector. Takes time. I can't just do it. Especially if you've got a long film or a high quality film, it might take a half an hour to get into the projector. And that's not me clicking buttons. That's just like it takes a half an hour to load. Um, and so that's why it's required before that. I'm just gonna delete. I can't believe I missed 2 slides on dates. But all the dates will be at the end, like I said. QCs will definitely run the last week of classes starting the last Sunday of break to the following Sunday, which is the day before the last day. Cool. If you pass your QC, you're all set. QC fails, please resubmit. And then again, submit your trim file through SofaTube. Sign up with your screenings time with the ticket you get from SofaTube. Additional notes, captioning. We have a captioning workshop in the spring. I believe I'm actually almost 95% sure. It's on our YouTube channel is a captioning workshop as well as The faculty have like a minute and a half long video that essentially says everything you need to do from like stylistically and and like how big should they be, what font, how big should the black, how black should the black be, how white should the white be, what should the text look like, stuff like that. What do you do if there's music? What do you do if there's sound effects or off-screen dialogue, whatever. Even if it has no dialogue, if it has sound, there should be captions. That can be as simple as, is there wind rustle? Is there like what elements in your story would need to be communicated to the audience? Would need to be communicated to the audience if the audience was entirely deaf. And so any sort of music, again, this is all covered in both those videos, but like whimsical music, happy violin music, uh, stuff like that. So what's going to communicate the themes of your movie to the audience if they're completely deaf is the general vibe. And then there's a couple technical things that you have to make sure to keep in mind when you're doing them. Yes. Also, you also need open captions for all tier one films. Those are burned into your video directly. If you are doing a DCP, I don't care if you do an SRT file. If you create an SRT file and burn it in within DaVinci, sorry, not DaVinci, DCP-O-Matic, that's totally fine too, as long as you QC and they're there. If you've selected open captions or subtitles, or sorry, not open caption. If you selected closed captions or subtitles on DCP-O-Matic, not open captions, and they don't get burned in, that's not my fault. Your film, we have to turn the lights on in the theater in order to screen your film so that way the interpreters can interpret. But yeah, and reach out to me if you have problems with the SRT file. It's pretty simple, but just make sure it's there and it works. All right. The amnesty deadline, there it is. I fixed on this slide. Amnesty deadline is December 4th at 10 p.m. Just to read it out loud, any student who submits before the amnesty deadline will be afforded a guaranteed QC assessment. That can be either in person if you want to schedule a meeting with me, or typically I just do it on Wednesday. And if you want to do another one, that's also totally fine. You also, if you're a graduating senior and you submit before the amnesty deadline, if we find that there's an error, you don't, yeah, and you've already signed up for screenings time in advance, you don't forfeit that time. We'll work with you to get that working. Film submitted after December 4th at 10 p.m., but before the general submission time, any flaws can still be corrected, even though they will not be allowed to keep their original screenings time if you had an advanced time because you're a graduating senior. Films submitted after the amnesty deadline that are found by the filmmaker or FAVASA that are found to have technical flaws risk alteration by FAVASA, just to meet specifications. The biggest one being audio lower or like turning on all the lights in the theater to have the interpreter be able to interpret stuff like that. But again, if it's before the deadline and you catch it either in a QC session with me that you've signed up for, or just QCing on your laptop or whatever, you can still resubmit. We'll probably ask you like at the table, like, hey, I see there's version 1 and version 2. You want version 2, right? But if not, then I lost my train of thought. But yeah, if you don't catch it, we don't catch it before the deadline. And that deadline being December 9th at 10 p.m. You risk not being screened, and you definitely risk alteration. And so there's a whole they changed the policies recently on not screening, but it's bad. So don't be the person that submits late or submits with flaws that we find late, especially if it's a flaw so big that we can't screen it. All right, here are the dates that I kept promising. This Monday, you're going to be receiving an email from me, but SofaTube will open. Right now, if you go on, it'll say closed. It'll open at 8 a.m. So if you want to submit your film Monday at 8 a.m. and be completely done with it, totally fine. That's up to you. I've never had that happen. So I know that you guys are still working. You guys are looking forward to this break, maybe to chill out a little bit, chill a little bit. But also, I know you guys are working hard for your deadlines, but it does open early. If you ever want to just check out what you're gonna have to do, check it out this Monday. The amnesty deadline, like I said, will be Wednesday, December 4th at 10 p.m. And like I said a few seconds ago, Monday, December 9th at 10 p.m. is the last possible minute that we can accept a film sign up. Um, we're signing up from 7 to 10 p.m. And please don't be the person, because we always have one or two that come at 9:30 and have not exported their film yet. And come ask for an extension. We don't grant those. You have to, if you haven't exported by that time, there you can email your professor. They'll either grant it or they won't. And I believe the highest grade you can get in the course is a C or a 70 or a C, one of the two. Um, but yeah, that's at the discretion of your professor. It also means that you have to sign, like, you have to get I believe Shanti has to sign for it, your program director has to sign, and your professor has to sign, essentially allowing you to resubmit or submit after the deadline. But you can avoid all that by exporting early and in advance, and signing up between 7 and 10 p.m. The first day of screenings will be Thursday, December 12th at 9 a.m. And so there will be 3 to 5 days of screenings. Like I said, don't schedule a flight for the following Monday. We might have a film screening and you might be going that day. There are also penalties for not showing up to your screening. And like I said, flights and other travel plans are not something that we can uh, give preference to. So if you really need it, if you've already bought your tickets, make sure you get there early on on the Monday of sign up so you can get a Thursday or Friday time or whatever, what have you, whatever need. Because once those times run out, they're we're not adding more. You were going at the end of the script. Oh, my battery's running low. That's good timing then. We will be offering QC sessions again, like I said, December 1st through the December 8th, or by appointment if you send us an email. Signups will be in an email on Monday, as well as it'll be a spreadsheet. And like I said, films need to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. the night before your QC. Yeah, and so the I'm not gonna read them out loud because I am losing my voice, but those are the times. They'll be in the spreadsheet all day. The last weekend it'll be 10 to 4, so you got 12 total hours that you should be able to pop by and into the theater. My guess is it won't just be me, so you can meet Favasa if you've not met us. Yeah. These are the websites, favasa.cat.rit.edu, and then there's a screenings tab and a documentation tab. And any emails can be sent to rit.favasa@gmail.com or favasa@rit.edu. Both go to the same spot, and it means that you get my eyes on it, Astrid, Lily, who's in LA, but if she wants to send some emails, she might. And then Parker and Gia, who are our other officers. We're all looking at it, as well as our advisors, Ricky, David, and Andrew. So we once if you email those instead of like me individually or somebody else individually, we get a lot of eyes on it and we can tackle it a lot faster. So that's why we recommend those. Does anybody in the audience here have any questions? That's typically what I'm sure that was a lot, and you're probably oversaturated, which is why we recorded it. So put me on 2 times speed, put me on half speed, I guess, if I talk too fast and you need to hear it over again. Send me an email. And with that being said, I'm gonna stop. Have a great night. I don't know if they're still on, but yes, there is a way that you can view the slides from this meeting. It'll I I typically don't send this presentation out. If you send me an email personally or send it to rt.vasa, I'll send it to you. Just because the information changes from year to year, and I don't want outdated information on a slideshow that's not just my own kind of thing. But it'll be in this video, and if you send me a a thing, yeah, that works. Cool. All right, sounds good. Thanks for staying up till 9 p.m. And yeah, good luck and Thanksgiving and such. I guess good luck's the wrong word to use. And stop waffling.